lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keeps dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
What's going on, people? What's going on? What's going on? We're back again with my summer transfer targets for Liverpool, and today we are here to talk about a player. Those who know me, those who have listened to me rant, you know I like this player quite a lot, and that is obviously the guy on your screen, Olise, currently playing for Crystal Palace. Now, obviously, we spoke recently about another Crystal Palace player that I like, and that was Eze. I think the two of them, I would love to see the two of them, to be honest with you, at the club. Now, just a disclaimer, because I know some of you obviously watching this, you might be thinking, oh, you know what, these signings might not be, they're not the top caliber of signings, so to speak. They're good players, don't get twisted. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to disrespect the players themselves, because they're all good players in their own right. Ignacio, Szoboszlai, and Eze. I think they're good players, but ultimately we got to remember where we're at as a football club. We've got to remember the owners that we've got. Obviously, we've got to remember the manager that we've got, and we've got to remember how we kind of do business and the type of players and the type of profiles, and and also remembering the type of players we've already got here at the football club. So that's why with some of these, transfer targets, it's not necessarily, of course, listen, if I was to do my own personal, we've got all the money in the world kind of thing, then, or even just enough to just go out there and really, really push the boat out, then yeah, listen, I'll be putting up there a raft of names, to be honest with you. I don't know, like maybe like a Barella, even though I feel like a Barella might potentially be obtainable, but of course, it's just one of those kind of signings. But yeah, players of that kind of ilk, players maybe at the top end of things. But at the moment, I think that where Liverpool are at as a football club, and I mean as a whole, not even just on the pitch, obviously for the season just gone, just mostly everything about the football club. I think that especially with everything that's going on behind the scenes, I think we are kind of back to when, I would say, it feels like, anyway, this is just what it feels like. Whether we are, it's obviously remains to be seen, but I feel like we're almost back to when we signed Van Dijk, probably Van Dijk, Alisson. So what was that? We got to the Champions League final that season, obviously lost out to Real Madrid. Then we got top four the following season. Anyway, yeah, I feel like we're kind of back there where it's like, okay, we're trying to build again. Hence the reason why some of these signings, or some of the players that I'm looking at, one, obviously I'm trying to be as realistic as possible, but mostly just these are the kind of players that I feel anyway would be realistic for someone like Klopp. Someone I'm trying to think like Klopp almost as well as having my own personal thoughts. Like, oh yeah, I would love to have this guy, and I'd love to have that guy. Heck, I would love to have Pedri. I'd love to have Musiala. I'd love to have Cavi. I would love to have like an Ansu Fati or whatever. Chiesa, like these type of guys. I would love to have these Gnabry, Sane's, like. Those are the type of players that I would love to see at the football club, but I just don't feel like we're at that kind of level or stage. Not necessarily because of what we've even done this season. I just think it's just the club as a whole, how we do business, the type of players that we kind of go for. We don't really go for those kind of players. Like, for example, I've heard murmurs in regards to like players like Kimmich. I mean, if we ever was to sign someone like him, wow, that would be like probably one of the shocks of the summer, to be honest with you. Not because I don't think that we're a big club or anything like that. It's just that's just not the type of players, these high profile kind of guys, that we don't really do that. We don't really do that, to be honest. We've spent high profile money, but could you realistically say any of them have been high profile players? Van Dijk, one of the most expensive centre backs at the time, the most expensive centre back at the time. I wouldn't have called him a high profile player like that. Do you get, the guy was knocking about for Southampton? Do you get what I'm saying? So, you know, that kind of tells you Alisson slapped him up when we faced Roma. Do you, I mean, Roma are not no top Italian team like that. So when I'm thinking about some of these players, I just feel like with a player like Olise, for example, even though he's a fantastic player, and obviously we'll get into him, I just feel like that's the type of profile of the player that we'd get. You know, he seems like a good guy as well. Obviously, I don't know him outside of football, but just from everything that you hear, what managers say, scouts, people have played with him, and all that kind of stuff, he seems like the type of profile of player, you know, that we would look to try and sign. But obviously, I digress. Let's get into Olise and, you know, just really what he's kind of all about, why I think, you know, he would be a good signing. First things first, obviously looking at this as obviously from this season, you know, 36 games. He's got himself 10 assists this season, 36 games in the Premier League, 39 altogether, including the Cups, 2 goals. So obviously might that be something that he'd want to improve anyway, because he has got the technique to get himself more goals. I do remember one of them against Manchester United, which was lovely. But the fact that he's got 10 assists, which is really, really good, and 10 assists, and this is where you try to take out what they can do for their team and try and see if that can be implemented in your team. Now, obviously, he plays on the right-hand side. Not that's not the only position, obviously, that he plays, which we'll see in a second, but plays mostly on that right-hand side. And he played for Crystal Palace. Again, they're not a team notoriously known for getting themselves abundance of goals. They're not a team known for their brilliant attacking, you know, display. So the fact that he has got 10 assists, I think that is underrated. That is 100%, you know, underrated. And if you look at his time, obviously at Reading, this is obviously in the season 2021, you know, 12 assists in that season. You know, again, Reading were an exciting team at the time. They had a few good young talents. Oviageria, I remember him playing for Reading at that specific time. But again, a player who loves to get himself assists, and I feel like we don't really see too much of that, really and truly, from certain players anyway. Obviously, the top players, your Vinicius Juniors, those are the guys who are getting the double doubles on a consistent basis. Salah, you know, getting the double doubles. You know, all of the, again, I'm talking, these are like world class players that I'm speaking about. Kylian Mbappe's, the Messi, all these kind of guys. But when we're looking at someone like Olise, still able to produce these numbers, again, this is him for Reading. And the fact that this season has kind of been like a really good season for him, and he's able to get 10 in the Premier League, I'm rating it, man. I'm rating it big time. This is obviously the positions that he's played. For Crystal Palace, as I said, right wing. He can play attacking midfield as well, and he's played central midfield a couple of times. So again, it's the versatility. This we all know, and whether we agree or don't agree, we all know what Jurgen Klopp is like. He loves a player with that little bit of versatility. He loves a player who can play in more than one position if he needs him to, kind of thing. And the sheer fact that he's been able to do that, you know, for Crystal Palace, again, like I said, it bodes well. It does bode well. So just taking a look at him, this is his form, obviously leading up to the end of the season. I'll take this banner off for you guys. This was his form. So, you know, since you know, the 1st of April up until basically the last game of the season that they've got. And you can see here, this guy was in really, really good form. And I just want to point something out, because I need people to kind of understand where I'm coming from when I speak about Mohamed Salah, because obviously that's the position that effectively I feel that he'll be coming in for. So firstly, the reason why I want to point this out is because a lot of people obviously been speaking about Mo Salah this season, you know, a lot of team of the seasons and stuff like that. People are getting angry. Oh, how can you not put Mo Salah? He scored this amount of goals and he's assisted here and he's done this and he's done that and blah, 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 blah. And again, they are right in a sense. You know, at the end of the day, Mo Salah scored a lot of goals this season, got himself assists. You know, his numbers wise, Mo Salah has remained the Mo Salah that, you know, we all know and love. But if we look here at Olise, in this run since April, 1, 2, 3 games. And we're talking 3 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 3 out of the 9 games that he has played, has he got a goal or he's got himself, an assist, right? So obviously that's where the numbers are obviously coming into effect. So that's 5 assists that he's got in those 9 games. Absolutely fantastic. So for the other 6 games, he's still performing well for the team. Crystal Palace are winning those games mostly, Um, bar the Fulham game and the Wolves game, where they lost to Wolves and they obviously drew in that derby to Fulham. Even in the defeat to Tottenham, you know, he's still performing well, and that is what I've been trying to get at when it comes to Mo Salah. It isn't to get at Mo Salah. It isn't to say, oh, Mo Salah's rubbish and all this, that, and the third. You know, you're not going to find too many bigger fans than myself. You know, for Mo Salah, I'm always trying to back the guy. Always. I've been telling people for about 2 seasons now that, you know, when they talk about Mo Salah, I'm like, don't worry, this guy he'll eat regardless. That's just Mo Salah. He eats regardless. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But I need to see also, well, not I need to see, but when we're comparing them to other players and why other players might be seen as being maybe better, not better, but just in better form and stuff like that, it's because they're able to still perform even if they're not scoring or assisting. And that is what Olise is still doing. Do you get what I mean? And that's why I look at someone like Olise. He's now been playing for Crystal Palace for a couple of seasons now. First season obviously wasn't too great, to be honest with you. Obviously still acclimatizing himself, but this season he really has taken the mantle on. And again, I think since Roy Hodgson come in, just like Eze in the last show that I did, speaking about Eze, this is the kind of the same thing. Bring them both in. Let's do a Lallana, Ricky Lambert type of vibe, but this is better quality, like way better quality than that. And again, I just need people to understand with the disclaimer is that I'm looking at these type of players. One, I don't know the situation with him and Homegrown. So someone in the comments, please do let me know his kind of homegrown situation. Obviously, he's been here, you know, since birth. Obviously played for Reading at the Reading Academy and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure he'd be considered to be homegrown, but I know that he is opting to play for France, to my knowledge. So I don't really know or understand the homegrown situation with him. So I could be wrong, but I'm going to say he'd be classed as a homegrown player. If so, again, we are looking, in my opinion, we might not be, but in my opinion, we should be looking at that right wing position. You know, checking out his heat map here. Obviously, as I said, purely down that right hand side, up and down as well, to be honest with you. And even if you look here, this is his heat map against Liverpool. Take this banner off. This is his heat map against Liverpool. And you can see all up and down that right hand side, but even in those defensive areas where I think this is when we drew 0-0 with Crystal Palace recently. And, you know, Patrick Vieira, I think, was still manager at the time. And, you know, this was the job role that he required from Olise. And Olise, again, performed it really, really well. Didn't score, didn't assist, but again, performed really, really well. And he performed decently, not that great, but decently when we faced them up at Anfield. So, you know, it's those are the kind of things that I'm talking about when we're trying to, you know, speak about Mo Salah and why he's not, people might say why he's not getting respected and stuff like that. You know, it's just one of those kind of things. Obviously, I do think he does get a little bit of disrespect, but at the same time, at times I do get it. I really, really do get it, kind of thing, because I guess sometimes you just want more at times. As much as he's doing his job, which is, of course, get the goals, get the assists and stuff like that, at times when the team is then not performing, it's going to be highlighted that you're not performing well, or you're out of the game, or you're not doing anything, or whatever it is. It'll be the same like anyone, like a Benzema. If, you know, Benzema against Manchester City in the Champions League was poor in that second leg. Poor. He was poor. Just because it's Benzema, it's not like you can't say it. Oh, it's Benzema, but he's still. It doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? He was still poor. You know, in that game in itself. So, you know, it's just one of those kind of things. If you look at how he kind of ranks up, this actually kind of surprised me, to be fair, when I did have a little look at this beforehand. This one did actually kind of surprise me, because if you look all the way at the bottom, you know, tackles, interceptions, blocks, he ranks pretty decently for those. But then when I looked at like the passes attempted, that's okay, I guess. Progressive passes, progressive carries, successful take-ons. He's someone who tries a lot, though. He does try to do that quite a lot. And again, I've got to then remember he does play for Crystal Palace. But, you know, in the assist, if you look at the top, assist, shot creating actions, he ranks pretty well. Obviously, again, I'm not talking about the best winger in the league. I'm not speaking about, you know, a winger who, yeah, like I feel like he's got a high, like, I think he's got a high potential. I think he's got a very, very high potential. But at the same time, we've got to then remember who's on that right hand side. It is Mo Salah. So the reality is this: you need to find a player who's still good enough to be able to come in. And I feel someone like Olise would be still good enough to be able to come in. On top of that, he knows the Premier League already. He's comfortable in the Premier League. He is a Premier League player in terms of that's his level. At bare minimum, he is that. I've heard rumours that PSG might potentially be looking at him, which tells you everything in terms of one, obviously the direction that they're trying to go in with getting in young French players, but also they're looking at someone like Olise. This is a team that can consistently in the Champions League, trying to win the Champions League. They wouldn't look at Olise lightly. Now, the fee itself, I don't know. That would be like something that I'd be like, I would have to then, it would then depend on the kind of fee that Crystal Palace would potentially ask for. They might potentially be losing, Zaha. So if they lose Zaha, would they then be willing to then lose an Olise? If so, they're going to probably charge a premium for him. That would then cause a problem. That's when I'll be like, maybe not. We could potentially find some others. And there are other players that I think we could potentially look at, but I'm looking at Olise and I'm thinking in my brain, why not? I love this guy, man. I love this guy. I think he's technically gifted. His dribbling ability really, really good. His on and off the ball movement is really, really good. He's improving in his work rate off the ball. Something that Patrick Vieira did obviously mention specifically in that game against Liverpool. So again, I'm thinking, okay, and then we look at the versatility, of someone like Olise. This is them in a 4-3-3 formation. He's playing right central midfield. Like I said, we all know what Klopp is on. 4-2-3-1 formation. He's playing on the right wing, obviously more his comfortable position. Again, 4-2-3-1, but he's playing behind the striker. These are all positions he's played for in his career for Reading as well. Playing that attacking midfield, being able to be the chief creator, in that team, being the guy who has a bit more freedom within the team to be able to kind of do, what he's really, really good at. And then obviously in the 4-3-3, he's out there on the right-hand side. So again, it's that versatility. It's being able to, function in various different positions and not really feeling like, he's out of place. If we take a look here, I'll go to, this is his form versus this. So both Olise. So this is Olise this season versus Olise last season. So this season's on the left-hand side of your screens, and then last season is on the right-hand side. You can see he's improved so much in a lot of these areas. Crosses attempted, he's dwarfing that, completely. Passes completed in the opposition half, is getting better. Obviously, Crystal Palace have been playing a lot better in recent weeks, but again, he's improving his numbers regardless. 5 assists last season, 10 this season, 65 chances created, double the amount of passes attempted, and then double, give or take, or just under double the passes completed. Short passes completed, duels. He's getting himself involved a lot more. That's more due, obviously, I think more due to the way that Patrick Vieira wanted the team to play. But again, he is improving that. All you can ask is, regardless of anything, whatever manager, whatever system, are you improving upon what you were previously doing? And that's exactly, what he is doing at this current moment in time. Ball recoveries that's crazy. Almost 100, almost that was that 97 more ball recoveries that he's doing, kind of thing. The only difference I probably see his conversion rate this season is comparatively low to, what it was last season, which I found quite interesting. And then obviously his shot accuracy, but in most of these metrics, he's doing a lot better. And if we take a look at what he looks like against a Mo Salah, this was quite interesting, but some of it I kind of understood. So, chances created, he's doing a bit better than Mo Salah. Passes attempted this is per 90 minutes. Passes completed, pass accuracy just about gets there. Long passes attempted, successful long passes. Crosses, yeah, Mo Salah rarely does cross, to be honest with you. Which is funny. That's why probably his crossing accuracy would be a lot better. Anyway, passes in opponent's half, doing better than Mo Salah. I found that one kind of interesting purely because Crystal Palace are not a team who are going to have the ball more often than not in games. So the fact that he's passing a lot more in the opposition half than a Mo Salah himself, someone who, we're going to see the ball a lot more, again, found that quite interesting. Ball recoveries. It's only really when it comes to like the goals and conversion rates and stuff like that, that's where I would expect 100%. That's where Mo Salah obviously kicks into gear. you know, kind of thing. Take-ons, ground jewels contested, take-ons completed. You know, he's doing it's obviously from him last season against himself, but he's doing quite a lot. He is doing quite a lot, and I think when I'm looking at that from someone like Olise, and when I'm thinking about that, I'm like, these are obviously the game's not played on, you know, via numbers. At the end of the day, you need to watch the guy, and I'm pretty sure for those who have watched Olise play for Crystal Palace and those who have watched him down in the Championship for Reading, you can tell this is a technically gifted individual. That you can tell this is the player who's comfortable on the ball, who's not scared on the ball, who's fearless. You know, someone who wants to dribble, wants to get himself out of situations where he's got that technique to be able to deliver a cross, to deliver a set piece, a corner, a free kick, you know, all of these kind of different things. I think he adds a little bit something different, something that we don't really have, I feel anyway, especially on that right, you know, right hand side, because at the moment you're looking at what, Mo Salah. Outside of that, you've then got Ben Doak and Harvey Elliott, you know, two players that I'm looking at and I'm thinking, I'm not really 100% sure about them. If I'm being honest with you, Ben Doak maybe more so on that right hand side than Harvey Elliott. And again, you then got to take into consideration, obviously, Mo Salah is going to want to play and is probably going to play more often than not, which is absolutely fine. I've got no issues, you know, with that. If he's fit, then obviously play. My issue is that with Liverpool, and we know with Mo Salah, ever since he joined the football club, I think barring his first season here, since then, every season that he's had here, he goes through like a patch. It's usually like between, on average, I'd say about 7-8 games that he goes through where performances are really poor and he's just not scoring or assisting. He's just there. He's just out there on that right hand side, just praying that something obviously just drops for him. And whether we're winning or losing within those, his performances do drop. Those are the kind of periods of time I'm looking at, and I'm saying the reason why we have to keep persisting with him is because we don't have anybody else. And sometimes it's not going to, like, for me, this isn't if you've only got him, then you've only got him. But I don't understand why you wouldn't then say, well, maybe we try something else. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, because we still need to be able to keep up, you know, the level of performances, especially down that right hand side anyway. So why not try something different? Why not have an Olise? You know, he offers you something different on the pitch. He's versatile as well, likes to cut in, obviously, like a Mo Salah does. But Mo Salah, I don't feel is that comfortable down the middle. I feel like Olise could be comfortable down that middle. He's fast. He's got acceleration. You know, so it's not like he can't get in behind. I'm not looking at Harvey Elliott's not quick. Harvey Elliott's not getting in behind, you know, kind of thing. Obviously, he's good with maybe the ball to feet, but ask him to get in behind the defense, that's not happening. So then it changes completely the way that we want to play. Once you start doing that, you got to change around so much. And then you almost lose that threat that we like, which is the long ball and the counter attacks and stuff. We can't really do it when you've got someone like that on that side. This is where I feel Olise can obviously potentially come in. But again, alas, I don't know what the fee would be for someone like him, but he is a player that I am very interested in, have been for ages. Him and Eze. If we're looking at English players and we're trying to, it would depend on the fee. So maybe we try and offer Crystal Palace like a package and say, look, we'll take both of them off your hands for whatever kind of thing. I don't really know what they would ask for both players, but I am definitely looking at both of them and thinking their next moves, if they do make them this summer, and if they just make them in a general sense, are going to be very, very interesting. I think they are both looking at potentially trying to go to the next level. And I think that we're at a stage now as a club that we can't be looking at, like I said, the top echelons of players. Like, we can't really be trying to pluck, you know, some team's best players, you know, so to speak, because I don't think that we're just really at that kind of level. One, in terms of finances, we just won't want to spend the money. But also just because of where we're at. And I think Olise could fall into that kind of bracket. But again, it would depend, obviously, on the fee. But yes, that is obviously today's transfer target done and dusted. Make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you subscribe if you are new and this is your first time watching. Again, if you are new, this is just, my kind of realistic transfer targets, players that I think that Liverpool could get, and also players that I think we should be definitely at least just looking at if we're trying to potentially, you know, play this kind of newfound football and this kind of new way. Let me know what you guys obviously think in the comment section about Mikel Olise. Would you want to see him at Anfield next season or in the future? Do you think he could potentially usurp, you know, Mohamed Salah on that right hand side? Who would you want to usurp Mohamed Salah? You know, he's 30, 31. You know, he's getting on a little bit, so his powers are going to wane at some point in time. Is that going to be next season? At the moment, we're seeing that he's still stat padding, but the performances ain't really there. The next step really is that the stat padding might just get a little lower, a little lower, a little lower. And at the moment in this team, the way that we're set up, we ain't got no one else to really do that. So, you know, we just might need to look at different options and maybe a different way of playing. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm G. Transfer targets done. I'm out.